where we revisit past episodes for the most useful and science-based tools for mental health, physical health, and overall performance. I'm Andrew Huberman, a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. Today's topic is food and the brain. We'll talk about the kinds of foods that support your brain, foods that help with focus, long-term brain health, and clear thinking over time. We'll also discuss why and how you develop preferences for certain foods, and the three main signals that guide those choices. One of those signals comes from your gut and operates below your awareness. These are neurons in your gut sending messages to your brain about the nutrients in the foods you eat. The second signal comes from how easily a food can be turned into energy, not just for your body, but for your brain specifically. And the third signal, maybe the most fascinating one, is the power of belief, what you think a certain food can do for your health, your focus, or your energy. So what directly impacts brain health? What foods actually help your brain function well? When people think about brain function, they often start with energy or fuel, the fact that neurons use glucose or blood sugar to work. That's true. But before we think about what fuels neurons, we should first talk about what builds and maintains them, what keeps them healthy. And that brings us to what I believe is the most important food component for brain function, fat. That might surprise some people. But aside from the brain's high water content, much of its structure and the structure of neurons themselves is made from fat. This isn't the same fat that's stored around your belly or organs. It's structural fat, which makes up the outer layer of neurons, a thin double membrane that separates each cell from its surroundings. This membrane is critical because it controls how things move in and out of the cell, which in turn affects the neuron's electrical activity, the very activity that lets you think, move, and focus. These membranes are built from special fats, and keeping them healthy depends on what we eat. So what types of fats are important? The key ones are essential fatty acids and phospholipids. These include omega-3 fats such as EPA and DHA. Most people get plenty of omega-6 fats from their diet, but many don't get enough omega-3 seconds to properly support brain health and cognitive function. The best dietary source of omega-3 seconds is fish. But if, like me, you don't eat much fish, you can also find omega-3 seconds in chia seeds, walnuts, soybeans, and flax seeds. You can look up more plant-based sources easily. Some of these may sound appealing to you, others maybe not, but the research is clear. Eating foods rich in omega-3 seconds or supplementing with them can greatly benefit brain function, both in the short term and long term. Ideally, you'd get about 1.5 to 3 grams per day of EPA. Another compound that helps neurons work properly is phosphatidylserine. It's found naturally in meat and fish, so if you eat those, you're likely getting enough already. If not, it's available as an inexpensive supplement that supports brain cell membranes in a similar way. Next, let's talk about choline, which is essential because it helps your body produce acetylcholine, a chemical messenger or neuromodulator that plays a key role in focus and attention. Think of acetylcholine as a kind of mental highlighter that helps your brain mark what's important. Many Alzheimer's drugs work by boosting acetylcholine levels because of its connection to memory and focus. The best source of choline is eggs, especially egg yolks. Eggs are incredibly nutrient rich. It makes sense when you think about it, since an egg has everything needed to grow a living organism. If you don't eat eggs, you can also get smaller amounts of choline from foods like potatoes, nuts, seeds, grains, and certain fruits. Most adults should aim for around 500 to 1,000 milligrams of choline per day. Another powerful nutrient for brain function is creatine. You might know creatine is something athletes use, but it's also fuel for the brain. Research shows that about 5 grams of creatine per day can improve cognitive performance, particularly in people who don't eat much meat or fish. I personally take 5 grams daily as a sort of baseline brain support. It's not something I feel immediately, but I take it consistently to make sure my brain has enough energy. Then there are anthocyanins compounds found in blueberries, blackberries, and other dark berries. You've probably seen pictures of blueberries next to articles about brain food, and for good reason. These colorful pigments have strong scientific support showing they improve brain function and may reduce inflammation. Eating a cup or two of berries each day, blueberries, blackberries, or currants, can be a great way to boost brain health naturally. Another nutrient worth mentioning is glutamine, an amino acid found in protein-rich foods like beef, chicken, fish, dairy, and eggs, and also in plant foods like beans, cabbage, spinach, and parsley. Glutamine may help your immune system and, interestingly, reduce sugar cravings. That's because your gut has neurons that sense nutrients like glutamine and send satisfaction signals to your brain, telling you that you've had enough, which can help reduce cravings for sweets. People who supplement with glutamine usually take between 1 and 10 grams per day. So far, we've covered several compounds: omega-3 seconds, phosphatidylserine, choline, creatine, anthocyanins, and glutamine, all of which are supported by strong research for improving brain health. You can get all of these from food, though supplements can help you reach higher levels if needed. Always check with your doctor before changing your diet or taking new supplements. These nutrients help maintain the structure and function of neurons and other brain cells, supporting memory, focus, and cognition. They can also positively affect sleep, inflammation, and heart health, all without harming other body systems when taken in reasonable amounts. Now that we've discussed foods that improve brain function, let's explore why we like certain foods more than others. It's not just about taste, it's about how the brain and body work together to guide food choices. We often hear that humans naturally crave sugar and fat because they're high in calories and once helped us survive famines. That's partly true, but the full story is more complex. There are three main systems that shape our food preferences. The first is taste what happens in the mouth. As we chew, our tongue and mouth detect the chemical makeup of food, creating the sensations of sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, which means savory. Umami gives that rich flavor you get from things like tomato, soy sauce, or a perfectly cooked piece of meat. These taste signals travel from the tongue through nerves to the brainstem, and then to an area called the insular cortex, the part of the brain that helps us sense what's happening inside our body. The second system comes from the gut. All along the digestive tract, neurons respond to the size, temperature, and chemical content of what we eat. Some neurons, called neuropod cells, can detect specific nutrients like amino acids, sugars, and fats. When they sense nutrient-rich food, they send signals through the vagus nerve to the brain, releasing dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward, and making us want to eat more of that food. The third system involves learned associations. Over time, our brains connect the taste of a food with the way it makes us feel. For example, we like sweet foods, not just because they taste good, but because they raise blood sugar, which boosts brain activity and dopamine. But here's where it gets really interesting. These systems can be rewired. Experiments show that even artificial sweeteners, which taste sweet but don't raise blood sugar, can eventually cause dopamine release after repeated use. In other words, the brain learns to associate that sweet taste with energy, even when it's not there. However, combining artificial sweeteners with high-calorie foods can confuse the system. Drinking diet soda with a sugary meal, for example, can mess with insulin and blood sugar control. So it's best to consume non-caloric sweeteners separately from high-glucose foods. There's also a fascinating belief effect at play. Studies show that what you believe about a food can change your body's response to it. In one experiment, participants were given the same milkshake, but told it was either high-calorie and rich or low-calorie and light. The people who believed it was high-calorie had a stronger insulin and blood sugar response, even though the shake was identical. This means your expectations and beliefs about food can change how your body reacts to it. So if you believe a certain healthy food is fueling your brain and giving you energy, your body will actually respond more positively to it. If there's a brain-friendly food you don't particularly like, you can train your taste preferences. Pair it with something you do enjoy, ideally something that gives your brain energy, and within a week or two, that food can start to taste better. Your dopamine system will begin rewarding that choice, making it a natural part of your diet. Over time, the foods you eat regularly become the ones you crave. This explains why people feel deeply attached to their chosen diets, whether it's plant-based, carnivore, or something else. The foods we repeatedly eat literally reshape our brain's reward systems. We don't just like sweet or fatty foods because of flavor. We like them because they predict an energy reward for the brain. But with consistency, we can shift that system and genuinely enjoy foods that are healthier and better for brain performance. In summary, food doesn't just affect your brain also affects how you experience food. By understanding these systems, you can make better choices, retrain your cravings, and support both short-term focus and long-term brain health.